Well, if you didn't catch my name before, it's Mike Catone. I'm the general foreman for Sharlen Electric. I was part of the design, coordination, and everything with this build. So, basically, I'll start with our switchgear here. Excuse my colleague's chair. This is your main switchgear, all right? So, if we close this switch right here, we lose power to the whole entire building, all right? So we don't want to hit that.
The green button?
The one that says close, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or well, open, I'm sorry, red. Red opens it, green closes it. Now if it does open, so if it opens, it'll say up here, it'll say that it's open. You're gonna have to prime it. Okay? Pump this a couple times, and then this will flop to green, and then you can go ahead and hit this button. All these electronics on this part, basically, don't touch it. Don't mess with it. Don't do anything with it. These have all been set. We actually, by code, you have to have a coordination study set. Okay? So they came out and they prime injected this breaker to make sure that it's not going to fail. And all the parameters have been set here. If you start messing with these parameters, things could happen that it's not going to cover. Then up here you have the DAS system. This is also another filter, another protection filter. This is called the arc flash, reduction system, which is another Chicago electrical code. Basically, if there's an arc on the primaries coming from ComEd, this protects it. Now in here, it will give you your voltage, and then you can go through the menu, and it'll give you your what your current's doing, what your voltage doing, what kind of power, and all that stuff. If you're really gives you all the fancy numbers here. I basically keep it on voltage. This is line 1, 2, and 3, and the reason why I keep it on voltage, that's kind of an important thing. You want to know what voltage is on those lines. If it starts getting really out of line, then and right now it's at a pretty good spot. So
what range should it be at? 290, 289, around
it's
there?
going to drop once the building starts it gets up and running, and
Okay.
it'll probably drop around 270, 280. Right now it's just really strong because there's nothing being drawn on this building yet. You get some tenants in here and everything's going to start dropping.
Except the fridges.
Yeah, it's the fridges start working right now. Dishwashers going and stuff like that. But we actually have a very clean service coming in from ComEd. These are just the rest of your switches coming through here. So I have everything's labeled T, RLDP1, and then those are your T stands for transformer. Okay, so as you go to that big guy right there, that's a transformer. You can see on the top it's got its label on there. There's another transformer next to it. These guys feed that equipment over there. Okay, that equipment over there, what you have here is your MC2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Basically, that's the floor. So if you came in here and you actually shut this switch off, you would shut off the whole second floor. All right. Once again, this is kind of that stuff you leave be. You don't touch with. All the parameters have been set from the factory. If you have a problem, you typically would call us or your electrical contractor of choice, and he'd come out and you'd see why it's doing it, and maybe reset the parameters that are in behind these covers. But typically there isn't a problem with that. All right. You have another transformer that's mounted up above you. That transformer feeds this panel, which in return this panel feeds these two panels, and then you have a spot for a future panel if need be. Looking at the way your building's set up right now, you'll probably never need that panel, but it's there. These troughs that I have put in, there's dividers in each one of these troughs that divide it off, so it is not connected all the way through. You would have to drill holes. But all these pipes coming in the bottom, all the first floor, as you can see, there's no pipes coming in. Everything's fed from the ground. I do have as-built and everything that'll be issued to you guys on final closing and stuff like that. There will be a single line diagram that I post in this room that'll explain when you walk in. You don't have to pull a printout, so you can kind of see what all this stuff really does. All right, I just have to have it made. Things are hard to get made right now, but this is your lighting control panel. This is not up and running yet. I just got the poles set yesterday. I don't know if you noticed that. So I'm in the process of wiring this up, and I do have startup coming out. You guys are here pretty much all the time now, right?
Yeah.
When the guy for startup comes on this, I'll come get you and we'll go through the parameters on this. So.
No, that's lighting for the ground level for outside, or?
This lighting here takes care of your patio.
Okay.
It takes care of your parking lot lights on the building.
Okay.
It takes care of your parking lot pole lights.
Okay.
And it takes care of the back corridor here, back of house corridor.
Okay.
Your loading dock is also one. The front of your building, those cans in the eave, soffit, I mean. And then the lights, and I'll show you the lights that take you all the way down, like more or less your corridor, your main corridor, all come out of this.
Are there timers on these?
It's a photo cell.
Okay.
And the way we're going to be set the per contract, the way it's going to be set up the program, photo on, photo off. So if you get a dark day, it'll turn them on. Everything's LED too, by the way, but it'll turn them on because it's a photo cell. That photo cell is located all the way up on the top of the penthouse facing north.
Okay.
All right. And then the lights down on the first floor in the back of the house, those are just on all the time. Okay. There will be override switches right here. So you'll have manual override switches. So for example, photo light turns on the parking lot lights and you're like, you know what, parking lights, they don't need to be on right now. It's not that bad. You can come in and just hit the switch, shut it off, and then you're not going in messing with any programs if need be. You just hit the switch the one time, and then after it cycles through, it'll, you know what I mean, it'll come back. It's the way I believe it's supposed to. We cover all that when startup happens. Okay. And if there's something that you want to change when he's here for startup for program, you know, that's why we have it.
So it's not like the old fashioned where you have to change it in the spring and in the fall. It's going to go based on.
This is astronomical. So it's all.
It's all.
You'll program it to Chicago's time zone.
Okay.
And it'll be set, but that's for daylight savings.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can put holidays and stuff like in here. It's a little bit. It's a smart panel, but you have the photo eye that always turns everything on and off.
Okay.
And you said there's only one photo cell?
Correct.
And that's up on the 6th floor?
It's on the penthouse.
Penthouse, okay.
Yeah. So the penthouse is above the 6th floor.
Okay.
So facing north.
North, okay. And that needs to be cleaned once in a while or no?
Typically, those are pretty much, they're fine.
Years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you start getting ghosting where it's kind of, but I'd say, I don't know, the one that's on my building has been on my building for 30 years, so that helps it. They last.
They last.
So every electrical panel has a panel schedule. They all have keys. I'll leave the keys while I'm here. I keep them locked. There's certain things that I have off that I don't want turned on because it's not ready to be turned on. So, which we're getting closer to. Any questions for this room?
No, I know we have. This is one of the main meters. This one here.
This is your meter.
Yeah, and then there's another one in the other
That's
one.
the fire pump. This is your building meter.
Okay.
So everything in this building is run off this meter.
Because I was told by ComEd that there's 2 common area meters. This one, and then the other one is over there.
The other one is just your fire pump. That's
only the fire pump. Okay.
Only the fire pump.
Okay.
So all your common is run off this.
Okay.
Here goes to the pump.
No,
Pump
this-
room's a separate service.
That one has its own service. Okay, that makes
Completely
sense.
separate service. Now, when you get your retail time, let's cover this real quick. When you get your retail time, this breaker here that I have locked out, and I have to lock this out for the safety of my employees, but when I leave, this lockout will be off. This breaker feeds this cabinet, okay? The contractor that comes in to do the build out for the retail, he'll have to buy the Erickson meter or the disconnect that mounts onto here. I left the pipe long so he could cut it to fit, but this 4-inch conduit goes out into the retail space. And it's stubbed up, and it's stubbed up high. Stubbed up high like this, so he doesn't have to, he can cut it to fit. I also have a conduit right here. This is your main grounding box. All right? This is one of those things where you don't have to, you just kind of leave be, you know, mess with any of this stuff. Especially the ones with, anytime you see this fitting, this is an irreversible fitting. If you break this fitting, bad things happen, okay? This space right here is left for the transformer that will most likely be set in your retail space. This conduit does go and comes up in that retail space, yeah. So they'll be able to take that, and then when I had the barmaid, there's threaded spaces here so they can mount their load and do what they have to do. But otherwise, this is
Where would their meter be?
where's their meter?
Like, are they gonna have their own separate meter?
Probably go right here.
Okay, so they will install it next to it probably.
The fitting that they put on there, it's like a disconnect with the meter built-in fitting.
Okay,
Your drawings have a part number of what that's supposed to be.
okay.
So that's a surge protector too, by the way, right here. It's another one of those things where you don't mess with it. There's a lot of stuff in here, it's just leave be, you know. But this is your surge protector. If you do get a surge, there's a counter on here. It'll tell you. Lights will turn red, it'll go into service or maintenance. If the alarm goes off, there's silence. It's pretty simple to follow. But at that point, you're usually gonna call somebody anyway, especially if it doesn't clear itself. Everything's pretty well labeled. You have one spare breaker in here. This cabinet feeds this distribution panel. This distribution is 480 volt, 277. This distribution panel feeds this panel, feeds your panels upstairs, okay? In return, also feeds this transformer that feeds all your 122, 208. So, good enough in here?
Yep.
Let's go take a step out here. I'll walk you through some of the stuff out here.